What's up, everybody? This is Apollodite, and today I am bringing to you a very special astrology video about Chiron moving into Aries. And so, this little asteroid called Chiron, he's a very peculiar one because he is what we know as the wounded healer. The mythology behind Chiron involves a centaur, which is this half-human, half-horse-like being who is very wise and very knowledgeable. And it's interesting because Sagittarius is represented by the centaur. And so Chiron has this sort of very divine, very holy aspect to it. He was one of the few centaurs that was regarded by the gods as one of the best, and he was a master healer. And his story ends up with him having to give up his immortality in order to sustain a wound that he was permanently afflicted with. And so with it, he deals with this aspect of vulnerability and being in a sort of painful human decision that really compromises who it is that you are. And for a while now, Chiron has been in Pisces, which is this very painful oriented sign because it has to deal with release and letting go of fear and letting go of any sort of mistrust, because Pisces is all about giving up your control and giving up your faith to the divine. Because Pisces is an ununderstood sign. It can't be understood by logic or conventional means. And so it really has to deal with these sort of unlogical aspects that really can't be processed by human cognition. And so there's this sense of an outcast to Chiron and Pisces that really was aggravating us, that really was trying to get us to heal from past wounds for the past 9 or so years, because Chiron is in between Saturn and Uranus. And so it's this slow sort of trans-Uranian, or rather trans-Saturnian sort of energy. And it's so weird because Uranus is, as well as Neptune and Pluto, are not regarded in the traditional system of astrology because there's only the 7 traditional planets in that system because technology could not allow them to see past Saturn. And so Chiron is this asteroid, so it's small, but it deals with these sort of weird interdimensional themes of really trying to connect to the human side, but also really connect to the divine side. And so, especially in Pisces, there's this sort of crisis of faith, and it leads to this crisis of identity now that it's shifting into Aries. And it will be in Aries for the past 9 years, or rather the next 9 years. And so these years to come are really going to deal with themes centered around your identity, and there might be themes of an identity crisis, especially as this in this video I'm going to be discussing especially the first part of this transit, which is going to be Mercury, or rather Chiron, starting in Aries, but it will then start to retrograde back into Pisces. And so as of the making of this video specifically, as we're coming out of this Piscean sort of phase, it really was very painful, and it dealt with aspects of us really letting go of control issues that we had, and letting go of sort of these complexes that we had to deal with, and these sort of limitations of what we thought was possible. And a lot of us have been experiencing things in our life that really had to be released and let go of because they could not be understood. There are some things in life that we just have to understand that we can't understand, and there's a lot of pain and a lot of difficulty. But the thing about Chiron and Pisces is that it gives you this opportunity to really let go of a lot of pain and a lot of victim issues, because Pisces can deal with these sort of victim-like mentalities where it has to be subjective to its environment, and it has to be this sort of martyr-like figure. And this is what this whole transit was really trying to help you let go of. And as we will be discussing in just a few minutes, it's really going to be all about how well can you truly trust yourself and really rebound from a lot of control issues. That's what's going to be the main theme of this transit, especially from a year from now, where this is really going to be what I'm going to be discussing. And so we have to just simply be willing to really look at ourselves honestly and without any sort of filter, because Chiron's this very real energy, because it doesn't care what you're experiencing. It's going to flush up wounds, and it's going to flush up a lot of the stagnant sort of issues that have been pushed to the side. And being in Aries, which is this cardinal, fiery, masculine sign about aggression and identity issues and your ego. There's going to be a lot of ego death over the next 9 years. Your ego is going to have to overgo a lot of experience and a lot of pain that is really going to challenge who it is that you are, as well as what you know to be possible, not only just for yourself, but in reality and existence as a whole, because Pisces deals with fantasy, and it teaches us that just because something seems real or logical doesn't mean that it's possible, or impossible rather. And so now I am going to be jumping into the charts to really be showing you what this transit is really going to be having stored for you. Okay, so the first half of this Chiron and Pisces phase is going to officially launch, or already launched, on April 17th, 4:09 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this is going to be when we officially start this chapter, where we are coming into this new cycle of really healing a lot of our personal wounds, especially related around our identity. This transit is really going to inspire you and really heal you, to really give you the opportunity to really express yourself and to really realign with your proper identity of who it is that you are, as well as some of the things and the actions that you really need to do. This transit is going to test you, however, as we'll get into, but it's also going to give you a lot of inspiration and a lot of encouragement if you're willing to carry on and be willing to fight for what is true for you. And so as we start off this first part of this transit especially, it will be when the Sun and Uranus are conjunct. So this is launching your fullest identity as well as sparking your fullest potential. And with Saturn and Pluto here in Capricorn throughout this entire transit, or at least for this part that I'll be discussing in this specific video, this is really going to be the sort of baby steps to really see what you're made of and to see what your sort of fire and your passion is, to see how well you can truly step into this new character, into this new state of you being amazing and being whoever it is that you are, and most importantly, you being original. And it's happening at the same time that we have this awesome aspect of Jupiter and Pluto as well as Venus. So this is really giving you the blessing, and it's sort of sending the ship off, giving you the message that if you are true to who you are, you will be rewarded, because Jupiter and Venus are the benefics. They want to reward, especially with Venus in her domicile of Taurus. But with the moon squaring the nodes, we have to be in a spot of being real and being authentic and really being original. Because if you're not being original, you're not going to be rewarded. This is going to be sort of like the Hunger Games, where you're going to have to really represent yourself, because nobody's going to be speaking on your behalf except for you. So you really have to pick up the sword of Aries during this whole transit, and even when it retrogrades back into Pisces, by really having faith and knowing that you are enough, and that by simply being here, you are good enough to exist, because this Chiron transit is really going to bring a sense of existentialism, where you're going to really have to fight for your right to be here. But it's not going to be, you have to prove yourself to somebody else. You have to prove to yourself that you are enough. And so, as we start off this Aries transit, Chiron and Aries transit, things are really going to shift come May time, when Mars moves into Aquarius, activating the sextile. So since Mars is the patron of Aries, this is really going to help you realign with a lot of the groups and a lot of the individuals that are really going to help inspire you to be the best you that you can be. This is also going to be the time when you really meet a lot of the people that really understand you for who it is that you are, and they really vibe with you, and they're willing to fight for you and with you on your behalf. And this is occurring at the same time that Uranus has shifted into Aries, or Taurus rather, squaring Mars. So there's going to be a lot of intense shifts. And so since Uranus is this quantum high energy sort of vibe, and as we'll get to later, who Uranus is going to be a player in this transit, especially in this first part, but Uranus is now grounding in your identity that it's been mastering through its years being in Aries. And so now the square to Mars is really going to activate a lot of the intense frequencies, because Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. And so we have all these different sort of aspects tying in at the same time, really trying to get you to the best you that you can be. Chiron in Aries is going to really sand buff you to get you to the sheen that you really should be at. And as we will be talking about later, Saturn's going to be playing a role in this transit. And so now that Saturn is retrograding, we really have to pay attention to our karma and walking with integrity. But at the same time, we have to be willing to really be whoever it is that we are. And as the North Node will show us in a few moments, we really have to honor our authenticity and our passion and our creativity and who it is that we are, because they're inexplicably linked as well. And so things are going to play out. And as Venus will be shifting into Leo, this is really going to give us sort of this beauty in the beast aspect, where by honoring who it is that we are and really expressing ourselves, because if you think in the movie, she and the beast were really just slowly getting to know one another and getting to see each other's humanity and who they were as an individual. And so, especially as the North Node is going to start to trine this while Chiron is in Aries, this is really going to inspire you to really be who it is that you are and to really connect to people and the things that you find pleasurable and the things that you really love about yourself. Because this whole North Node in Leo transit that we are currently in and that will start to play out and ultimately wrap up come August, we really have to honor who it is that we are, especially as Chiron will retrograde back into Pisces. And so moving forward, things will continue on, and then Chiron will officially start to retrograde. And so this is going to be when Chiron starts to move backwards, and we really have to start to, again, honor our individuality. And again, at the same time, look at that. Neptune also goes retrograde, and so is Jupiter. And so there's this grand sort of element of us really coming into this trusting of who it is that we are, because it's almost like these big outer planets are looking down on Chiron, because Chiron's just this sort of quiet, humble little asteroid that wants to do its duty in its service, and yet it can't really do that if it has all these sort of intense sort of things going on, because all of these heavy players are really starting to bear down. And as we get to it, Uranus is going to retrograde soon after. And so as we move forward, come around August, and the North Node is wrapping up, Uranus will go retrograde, and then in a few days, this is when we experience the square to Saturn that is really going to challenge us. This is going to be when a lot of authority and a lot of the old paradigms and a lot of what the past sort of controlling systems is really going to try to limit who it is that you are. And Chiron's going to be forced back into Pisces, where it's going to get a little bit of a break against Saturn, but eventually it's going to have to kind of face off against that. And so we're going to be in this position of us really trusting our instincts. This is really sort of like the Hunger Games once again, where we really have to honor our skills and who it is that we are, as well as the potency of our individuality. And as thankfully we'll get another break as Mars will once again move back into Aquarius after its retrograde. And so this is again going to remind us of who it is that we are. And this is also going to be a time when other people really start to initiate their presence in our own lives. This is going to be when a lot of connections are going to start to form, especially between friends who are really going to support you and really inspire you to get to the next level of who it is that you are, as well as who it is that you are meant to be. And as we officially retrograde into Pisces come the 26th, at the same time that Venus and Mars are just finishing their square, really trying to find a deeper level of connections and meaning with other people. And so this is almost like, it's almost like Alice in Wonderland, but part two. So it's like through the looking glass almost. And how interesting that it's happening the same day, or rather a few days after the sun has officially moved into Libra. And so we really have to question our identity now that Chiron has moved back again in Pisces. And we really have to reevaluate our spirituality and who it is that we really are, as well as who we truly trust ourselves to be. But it's important to know that the work that we're doing, especially because Uranus and Saturn are trying, this is really grounding you, and it's really providing you with the means and the connections to really be the best you and to find a deeper level of value and meaning in your identity. Even as Uranus now will start to retrograde back into Aries. And so this is going to be interesting because it's really putting you in a spot where you have to really value who it is that you are, especially because the North Node will now be squaring it, really putting us in this spot of really trying to see if we can weasel our way out of being authentic and being who it is that we have to be, because the North Node's all about destiny. It doesn't care what you think or what you want. It's this fated sort of aspect. And so Uranus and Taurus might be so focused on trying to create something new of value, it's not really appreciating what it already has. And we have to be careful with that lesson, especially as we continue through this retrograde. And then Uranus will move back into Aries. And so we have to be in a spot of really remembering our authenticity. And Uranus is going to help us do that. But this is going to be a very powerful shift. And once Uranus and Chiron move back direct into their respective signs, they're going to stay back there. And so there's this sort of gauntlet run that we have to go to, where we have to be dealing with these sort of trials back after back after back. But at the same time, the North Node is shifting into Cancer. And so once it does that, it's going to be trining once again. Oh, I missed something. And so first, the North Node will move back around this time in November, and so it will be activating a grand water trine between Chiron retrograde, the North Node, and Jupiter. If we want to get specific, it's a very specific day on the 7th, and so this is really going to give us a lot of divine nature about who it is that we are, which we are going to be carrying into once Chiron moves back into Aries. And notice this grand trine, or not grand trine, grand cross. It's not a grand cross, it's just a T-square. It would be a grand cross if there was something in Capricorn. And even sort of Pluto's kind of fulfilling that role. And so there's this very strong, challenging aspect of really your willpower and seeing how far you can truly stomach it, and seeing how far can you truly push yourself, as well as push who it is that you are, as well as how you feel about yourself, because the North Node shifting into Cancer is really going to test you now to see how well can you truly follow your soul, and what is your calling, and what really gives you an added depth of meaning. And Venus in her home of Libra is really giving you the connections. This aspect between Venus and Uranus has been playing out for the past few years now, but this is going to be the last time that it happens. And so with Venus in her domicile where she rules, and so Uranus, especially at the 29th degree, is really activating a lot of connections and a lot of deeper meanings to things, especially with this grand water trine, really adding to this element of fated spirituality. And so come December time, we're also going to be experiencing the grand water trine once again, this time with Mercury instead of Jupiter, which is very interesting because Jupiter rules the higher mind while Mercury rules the lower mind. And so there's this aspect of us really coming to an even deeper understanding of who it is that we are. And now that Jupiter is in Sagittarius where he rules, ironically, or on the same day that the Sagittarius new moon is, how ironic, which is really going to give us a very good understanding of who it is that we are and what do we really believe in. And as we will see in 2 days, at the same time the grand water trine is going on, Chiron's going to be moving direct at the same time that we have Mars and Neptune together in Pisces. And so this is the closest that Chiron and Neptune are going to get for a very, 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 very long time. And so they're going to be parting ways, and Mars is going to be carrying a lot of good information and a lot of ability and a lot of even magical healing knowledge to give to Chiron once Mars and Chiron make contact. And so all of this information is really going to remind us how awesome we are and how spectacular that we truly are meant to be. And this is going to be very, very, very magical because if you notice, once Uranus moves direct, Chiron, or rather, once Uranus moves direct, every single planet will be direct once more. And so, let's see if I can get how specific. And so, even in January, oh, I missed something. Oopsie poopsie. So, once we backtrack. Okay, so Chiron is now direct, and now Mars has caught an up to Chiron. And keep in mind, Mars is the ruler of Aries, and so once it's interesting, it's almost like there's this some sort of symbiotic sort of relationship where Chiron is now direct, able to heal Mars before he officially launches into Aries season, or rather in his Aries season at least. And Mars is also giving Chiron this inspiration to really fight its battles and to really heal itself and to really stand up for its self-worth and to not really worry about Saturn and Capricorn, because keep in mind, Mars, as of this current video, is in Capricorn. And so Mars is doing battle, or has already done battle with Saturn. And so Mars is giving Chiron words of inspiration to really fight for itself and to really fight for a deeper meaning. And even Venus is starting to activate that grand water trine. And a lot of the wounds and a lot of the actions that you're taking are being divinely and spiritually led around this time. So this year, 2018, overall is really going to be a test of your faith and how well can you truly believe, especially towards the end of it. And so once we shift off into the new year, also watch this. December 31st, this Gregorian New Year, which I don't keep in mind, but pay attention, because we then will experience literally an hour before the East Coast, so even before, Mars will officially launch into Aries, really initiating our identity and really paving a way for Chiron to do its thing and to really go forward and heal, because Chiron and Aries is this very intense and very personal sort of energy, but Mars is going to pave the way and give it a lot of excitement and passion and meaning. And so as Chiron now officially moves forward, and now Uranus goes stationary and then will go direct on the 6th, everybody is glowing. Yeah, everyone's literally glowing and moving direct. And look at this, at the same time that we are just coming off of the Capricorn new moon of this zodiac year, and even the North Node is direct, and it's making this cardinal T-square that we're going to be, again, seeing on and off for a while now, that will start to shift away after this, but still, as we're getting ready for Chiron to officially launch into Aries, where he will then stay, we are really initiating our willpower and how far we can truly push ourselves. Now that the North Node is in a cardinal sign, it's really going to be how well can you truly feel into it, and how well can you truly tap into the unseen and unfelt waters of Cancer's emotional depths. And Venus is once again activating the grand water trine. So we've had Jupiter, we've had Mercury, and now we have Venus. And yeah, she's in her detriment, but she's also the minor benefic who still wants to reward us. And so she's really giving us this opportunity to really heal from relationship issues as well, considering that there's this very powerful dynamic with Venus in Scorpio, where she really has to endure a lot of pain and a lot of suffering and a lot of power conflict. And so as Chiron wraps up and Venus shifts in, and we get ready for the Sun and Pluto conjunction as well, this is going to be a very, very powerful time to see how well you can truly push yourselves and how well you truly can have faith at the same time, and trust and know that the actions you're taking are really manifesting. And something interesting to notice is that Mars and the planets Saturn and Mercury will be squaring Mars. I think I just said that, but who currently now is in Capricorn, but at this point in time, January 11th, he will be facing off in his domicile once again against Saturn, where he can stand on his own 2 feet. And as we progress into this powerful new beginning on the 19th, Chiron will officially move into, excuse me, on the 20th. oh, excuse me, it moves into on February. Silly me. And so once we officially move into Chiron and Aries season, we are officially restarting our identity now. And we still have all of the planets direct, which is a very rare phenomenon. And as we have all these different aspects to Capricorn and Pisces, we're really healing and creating a new structure that's really going to support our newfound identity. This year is really going to put you in a spot where you really have to empower yourself and put yourself in the seat of putting your fate and your own destiny in your own hands. Chiron and Pisces took it out of your hands, and it retrograding back is going to have to teach you how to be humble and know that there's always going to be a divine element to things. But Chiron and Aries is going to inspire you to take your identity and your fullness into being whoever it is that you are. And something important to know is how interesting, on the same day, on the February 18th, 2019, the day that Chiron moves back into Aries, we have the Sun on the 29th degree of Aquarius, Jupiter at the 20th degree of Sagittarius, both Venus and Saturn conjunct in Capricorn. All of the planets are direct. Mercury and its detriment conjunct Pluto and its or Neptune in its domicile, with Uranus at the 29th degree and Mars officially launching into Taurus. That's like, you can't make this stuff up. And with the square to the North Node that Uranus is making, this is really going to be the shift that's really going to put you in a powerful position of taking care of yourself. And it's not an aspect of really disregarding other people, but it's really about how well can you truly resonate with yourself? How well can you heal your identity and who it is that you are? This is going to bring up a lot of identity-related issues, especially because society puts you in box and it really limits you to who you can be. And in a lot of places, you can be killed for being whoever it is that you are. A lot of people can't come out of the closet, especially in a lot of third world countries, because the homophobia and the violence is just too great, and there's just too much of a personal risk. And so there's going to be elements of this where it's really going to be challenging, because you have to be yourself and you have to walk with integrity at the same time. But this is really going to shift a lot of people and put them in a lot of uncomfortable situations where they're going to have to express your identity, regardless if you lose a lot of foundation with Saturn. And so just trust and believe by being your identity and being who it is that you are. And it can be in any context. It could be spiritual. It could be in sort of lifestyle. And you might be voting one party or versus the other, and you might not want to vote any party at all. And, there's these sort of black and white issues. And Chiron and Aries is going to be very frank and say, who are you? What do you really align with as far as who are you as an individual? What is important about you? And as Chiron's going to teach us throughout these years, it's really important to honor your raw authenticity and your identity. And you can't be wishy-washy with it either, because Neptune's going to, it's funny because Neptune is going to be in Pisces throughout this entire transit. And so there's this element of a fluidity and really being creative with our newfound identity, but we have to be willing to heal a lot of the issues that we have now. And we have to be willing to put aside any sort of personal criticisms that other people might have for us. This transit is really going to dig up a lot of old issues that you were going to have to do battle with once again. But once again, you would not be fated to experience that if you were not fated to win as well. So overall, this transit will be very powerful, and it might lose some of you if you are unwilling to, or rather, if you are willing to compromise. This is not the transit to try and sell yourself or sell your soul short of what you're worth. And as the North Node will be wrapping up in Leo, it's going to ask you, how worthy are you of the identity that you have? What is your name? What's your true name? Not your government-given name or what was given to you by birth. Who are you as an individual, and why is that so awesome? So thank you so much for watching, everyone. Thank you so much to the Peace Dealer for having me on his channel. If you haven't checked out his channel, please like and subscribe, and be sure to check out my channel at Apollodite. And so thank you so much for watching once again. If you're interested in daily tarot content, by the way, be sure to follow my Instagram and Facebook at Apollodite. And if you like this video, please leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe. I would truly appreciate it. So thank you so much for watching once again, beloved. And always remember that only love is real.